Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're going to go ahead and kick this thing off. We are recording right now, so we are live. Everybody wants to come in and grab a seat. We will officially call to order the State Route 37 Policy Committee. Today is Thursday, September 4th. Before the roll call, I just want to check to see, Jennifer, is there anyone that is participating remotely today?
I don't see anybody at this time except for General Manager Eddie Cummins with SMART.
All right, so we won't go through the, if Councilmember Eklund is able to join remotely, we can go through the process we need to if she dials in at that point. With that, Jennifer, you want to do the roll call?
From the County of Napa, Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Supervisor Amber Manfrey. Here. Mayor Pierre Washington is absent. From the County of Marin, Councilmember Pat Eklund, absent. Supervisor Stephanie Moulton Peters. Here. From County of Solano, Supervisor Mitch Mashburn. Here. Mayor Andrea Soares. Here. Supervisor John Vasquez, absent. From the County of Sonoma, Councilmember Victoria Fleming, absent. Supervisor David Rabbit, absent. Vice Chair Supervisor Rebecca Hermosillo. Here. And from the County of Marin, Supervisor Eric Lucan, Chair.
Here.
Great, you have a quorum.
Great, and Jennifer, for those that are participating remotely, any instructions we want to share today?
Yes. For those attending in person, the chair will invite audience members to speak during public open time or when a specific agenda item is being considered. Participants joining via Zoom may speak during the designated time for each item by using the raised hand feature or dialing *9, then waiting to be called upon. Please note that each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right, well, it's wonderful to see everybody. I really want to thank Touro University, STA, and the City of Vallejo for hosting our meeting. I do want to turn it over to Mayor Soares to share a few words, and thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll be brief. It was Solano County's turn to host this, and we really wanted to give everyone a chance to come out here to beautiful Mare Island to see our interchange on Highway 37. But this island is so special as we work to build up the former naval base, and our developer that we have out here, we're processing a specific plan in the next couple years. And so, I promise for those that got stuck in traffic on the way here today, hand to heart, that was not a setup. We were not trying to ensnare you in traffic to show the importance of reinforcing and improving our interchange up there. But I think the development plans we have out here and the opportunity to use this, some of the exciting things happening on this island to catalyze the region and to connect through this project. It's really exciting to me, and I just want to welcome everyone to Vallejo and encourage you to take a look outside and explore Mare Island while you're here. And again, thank you to Touro for hosting us and everybody that helped make it happen.
Wonderful. I also want to make sure we recognize all the folks that are part of the expanded partnership. I know we did some introductions, but maybe we just kind of go around the table so we know, make sure we know everybody who's sitting here today, and then also members of the expanded partnership that might be on Zoom as well. We'll start around the corner here.
Danielle Schmitz, Executive Director of Napa Valley Transportation Authority.
Ann Richmond, Executive Director, Transportation Authority of Marin.
Daryl Hall, Executive Director of the STA.
All right.
Andrew Vermeer, Executive Director at the Metropolitan Transportation Commission.
Duan Nguyen, I'm the Caltrans Acting Chief Deputy. David Ambio is now our Acting District Director.
And go over here.
Yes, Tiffany Jones, District Director for Assemblymember Lori Wilson.
And then Jennifer, any online that are members of the expanded partnership?
Yes, Melissa Pua.
Hi, good morning. Melissa Puya, District Director for Assemblymember Damon Connolly.
And I'm Eddie Cummins, Smart Train General Manager.
Welcome all. And
James Cameron with the Sonoma County Transportation and Climate Authorities.
I think that's everyone. Also want to recognize Councilmember Pat Eklund. Great to see you.
It's great to be seen. What a trip. I am here, and thank you very much for having this. I would suggest in the next time that somebody take the time to put directions with arrows on where to go in this place, because I'm never late, well, hardly ever, and it's very frustrating. And if it wasn't for Sonoma County out there, just want to thank you very much for helping me. And I did fracture my shoulder, so that's why I'm one-armed.
Well, James, thanks for the search and rescue team. We're all here and we're just getting started. So we are all present and we're going to jump right in to our business. First up is our consent calendar, which is the minutes from the July 10th meeting. Just ask, are there any questions from the committee or public comment on the consent calendar? I'm not seeing any here. I'm not seeing any online. With that, would somebody make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll second Joseph.
So moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Move right on to discussion information items. And first up is communications with Bart Ney from Caltrans.
Can you hear me? Good morning, everybody. I'm Bart Ney, Office Chief of Public Affairs for Caltrans here in the Bay Area and our communications lead for State Route 37. I've got my colleague Nick Burton standing with me today. We're going to streamline the communications update and just show you our latest piece of collateral that we've been working on very closely with the Solano Transportation Authority. We're excited that we're in construction on the first diverging diamond interchange in the Bay Area, only the second in California, and this piece that we put together is to help inform the community about how easy it actually is to use a diverging diamond and what it is and what's special about this one. So without further ado, hit it.
The interchange at Fairgrounds Drive and State Route 37 is at the center of a thriving community in the city of Vallejo that includes the Solano County Fairgrounds, commercial activities, the Six Flags Amusement Park, the Country Club Crest neighborhood, and the neighborhood of North Vallejo. Over the years, the city has grown, and along with it, so has traffic. Bottlenecks are occurring with increased frequency. During the morning peak hour commute, over 1,100 cars travel south through this interchange, with half continuing down Fairgrounds Drive and the other half heading east on 37. In the afternoon, this massive flow is reversed. Adding to this, future demand is projected to increase by 25% over the next 20 years. The solution? A new diverging diamond interchange, also known as a DDI, that will decrease wait times at this interchange by 94% for the busiest commutes. These have been constructed throughout the United States and are proving to be an easy-to-use solution for the problems we're experiencing at Fairgrounds Drive and Highway 37. The first U.S. DDI was constructed in Missouri in 2009. Since then, over 150 have been constructed throughout the United States, including the first DDI in California, built on Highway 120 at Union Road in the city of Manteca in 2020. What does the DDI experience feel like? Let's take a look at some different ways that we'll move through this new interchange. Here we're headed south on Fairgrounds Drive during the morning commute. We'll be going under Highway 37 and continue down Fairgrounds Drive. Driving through the DDI is very simple. The carefully designed approach angle of the interchange, along with clearly laid out striping and signage, will safely guide motorists through the DDI. Large lane arrows provide direction, and the barriers will help minimize distractions. Transitioning back to the right side of the road as we approach Six Flags is like driving through any other interchange, but with less wait times. Now let's try taking the on-ramp to 37 headed east towards 80 during the morning commute. We're back at the stoplight. Continuing through the signal, we get ourselves into the left lane if we're not already there. And it's easy because the traffic coming off of 37 is stopped with a signal. No awkward merging to get yourself to the on-ramp. Existing sidewalks were moved to the center of the DDI to make room for the new configuration. This free left turn lane to 80 means we only need to go through one signal now, not two. Finally, let's try the busy westbound exit off of Highway 37 and head north on Fairgrounds Drive. We have 2 lanes dedicated to moving us off the highway, going north on Fairgrounds Drive. The clearly visible signals keep us safely separated from traffic coming up Fairgrounds Drive. Wondering how to bike it? Let's take a look at how we would navigate the DDI on the busiest routes, but this time taking our bike instead of driving. We'll start again at Fairgrounds Drive heading south. We know from our traffic studies that our mixing zone here, the green dashed area, is crossed by only about 10% of the traffic moving south on Fairgrounds Drive. Approaching the stoplight, it's clear to see that we'll continue straight across the interchange with the flow of traffic. The organized movement of vehicles traveling at 25 miles per hour through the DDI makes the cyclists, traveling around an average of 12 miles per hour, more comfortable and encouraged to use their bicycles for commuting. Cyclists also have a low-stress alternative of using the center walkway for the less adventurous. Now let's head north on Fairgrounds Drive, starting south of Sage Street, with our mixing zone taking place well ahead of the DDI. Up ahead to the right, you'll see that the on-ramp bus stop has been relocated next to the commercial area, creating safer access for pedestrians and conveniently located close to Six Flags. Skipping ahead to the interchange, we can see we'll experience the same comfortable transition moving through the DDI. How to walk it. Walking through the DDI will be safe and organized, just like the cycling experience. Here we see the sidewalk options that we can use to get through the DDI. Let's try one. Starting at the north side of Fairgrounds Drive, we see the clearly delineated path guiding us through the DDI. Signals tell us when to safely move through the space. The organized movement of traffic is evident and provides a comfortable environment to move through. The unique thing about a DDI is that you'll move through the middle of it. The center walkway is protected by concrete barriers and a railing that create a safe environment for pedestrians and careful cyclists moving through the interchange. Once finished, the new Fairgrounds Drive diverging diamond interchange will improve safety, enhance mobility, and support economic growth in the city of Vallejo. With efficient lane configuration and better bicycle and pedestrian access, this new DDI is ready to meet the community's needs for generations to come. For further project information, please see the web links in the video description.
All right, thank you. So that technically is our public debut for the animation. The project's doing quite well. It's on schedule, right, Nick? Okay, and we are going to be pushing the information probably around mid-October. In late October, we're going to do our second traffic shift. So we want to get information out there to get the public aware that the second traffic shift is going to be happening. But we also kind of want to alert the region that this is coming. So you'll start to see more stuff from our communications team on this project in October, and that's our latest animation. We've got a packed agenda today, so I'll close it out there with communications and ask for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Bart. Any questions?
Just a quick thank you. I think I might finally understand how the diverging diamond works, and I know the community is really going to appreciate that video.
Councilmember Eklund?
I'm kind of curious, how is the reception in Matisse at 120 and Union Street?
The reception for us placing the diverging diamond?
No, I think that it was done in California.
Yes. Yeah, years ago. Beautifully. Yep. So diverging diamonds are done to create efficiency and safety, and that was a perfect example of it. I don't have the numbers right now, but the congestion went down when we put it in place.
And the reception from the people that they understood how to go, because it seemed very confusing.
Trying to understand a diverging diamond can be a little bit challenging, but navigating it is pretty easy. All you have to do is follow the traffic laws. When the light turns red, you stop. When it turns green, you go, and you just move through the space.
And I guess with proper noticing and names and everything with the arrows and where to go.
Yeah, all of the signage, actually, all the signage was included in the animation that'll be there. It should be really easy to navigate.
That's sort of part human based on what we had to go through today.
Oh.
Thank you.
In the back?
We'll go to Tiffany and we'll go here.
Yeah.
Good morning. Just wanted to say thank you so much for the information that you guys have given. As a resident of Country Club Crest Estates, you guys have been very responsive to some of the feedback that our community was able to give you guys at the start of the construction. And I will say that it's moving smoothly. It's moving fast. I didn't expect it to be going as fast as it is. So again, looking forward to the future updates. And when this thing is finally done, I'm really excited to be able to see it, but to be able to see the video and know that, oh, this is exactly what is supposed to happen is really great. And hopefully we can get this video out to the public sooner rather than later. So thank you guys again, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Supervisor Manfree.
I guess just for everyone's ability to communicate, where will this video be available to the public?
It'll start on our State Route 37 website and our resilient37.org websites and the STA websites. All of our partner agency websites will host the video.
Could you send us the link
Yes.
via email? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee before we go to public comment? All right, we'll start with public comment here in the room. And we've got a mic. There we go.
Hello, my name is Helen Marie. I'm City Councilwoman for District 6 here in Vallejo. I love the video presentation. Definitely upgrade since the last time we've seen it. The only concern that I have is, when you do the individuals walking, if I make a recommendation, if you add a line so the cars won't be at that line, from what I noticed, it's like the cars were right at the line when folks are crossing, maybe adding another line before they get to that point, in case someone accidentally step on the brakes. Your video when folks were crossing the street?
Yes.
If I can make a recommendation, maybe adding another line before they actually get to that line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a stop bar in advance of the crosswalk.
Right, that's a suggestion. Thank you.
Look at that. Thank you.
Right. Any other public comment? Is there any public comment online?
Chair, I don't see any hands raised at this time.
All right. Well, Bart, thank you so much for the update and the visualization. And we'll look forward to seeing that posted on the website when that time comes.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 3.2, roadway and ecological resilience. I'll welcome Jeanette and Javier, who are presenting this.
Hey, good morning. Jeanette Wiseman with MTC. I'm actually presenting both with Javier Mendeville of Caltrans and then also Aaron Chappelle, the regional manager of California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And then we also have an even bigger team joining us online. We have Julian Meisler of Sonoma Land Trust and Stuart Siegel, who's part of our Audubon team designing the Strip Marsh East, and he'll be answering questions. So we're here today to answer your request from July when you said, give us a refresher on roadway and ecological resilience that the program is working on. So that's what we're here to do today. Next slide. So we'll start with the current conditions, 37 shown in green, as you know, a 21-mile corridor, a critical connector for communities, critical to moving commerce, and also critical to the future restoration of the San Pablo Baylands. We're going to go deeper before we go into what we do next and resilience over the next 100 years. We need to dig deeper into what the current environmental conditions are, what the historic conditions were, to really understand the right steps moving forward. So, Erin?
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back with you again today. If we can move to the next slide. Just wanted to kind of set a little context for the discussion today. So this is the historic Baylands map prior to European settlement, as best as we understand it. You'll see some of the, we kind of modified the map to show some kind of landmarks for you to orient to, so future cities, as well as the Highway 37 roadway. But what you see here is an extensive marsh complex, and this marsh complex existed throughout the Bay Area and into the Delta, provided, these marsh habitats, so that kind of yellowish mustardy color, really form at that interface between the water and the upland areas, and they create these dense networks. There's a lot of diversity in terms of the communities within it, as well as the hydrodynamics of these systems. So you can get these very large and dense marsh areas. Marshes serve a really important function. They kind of act like a sponge. So the water coming down through the system from the rivers and smaller tributaries, so it kind of absorbs some of that flood flow as it comes in. It also, on the bayward side, protects against storm surge and creates a bit of a buffer. Also provides tremendous habitat for a wide variety of species. These lands were used extensively by tribal communities. They provided food and materials that they used. And so, this is what we had historically. And they really serve as a great ecological tool as we look at changes in climate and changes in hydrology in our systems. I just want to, before we move to the next slide, just take a moment to look at the distribution of the marsh habitat, which is that kind of mustard color with the brown mudflat colors. And then we'll move to the next slide where we transition into kind of the land use changes that occurred with settlement. So you begin to see these darker brown or medium brown shades, which are diked agricultural fields. So for the North Bay, and we also saw this in the Delta, you see a lot of reclamation of this land for agricultural purposes. Other urban development occurred in these areas as well. So this image is from 1999. I just want to point that at this point, we began prior to this, when this diking occurred, we lost even more of the marsh area. Over time, the diked wetlands subside and they become harder and harder to maintain as they lose elevation. So the levees become more vulnerable because you don't have the protection from the marshes. They become more vulnerable to flood. You have to strengthen the levees. You continue to get additional subsidence. What you see here is a real contraction of all of the major rivers and tributaries that flow into the system. You see changes in the distribution of the mudflats and a very significant constriction of the marsh area. In 1998, we started to see some of that marsh restoration starting to happen in recognition that some of those areas could no longer be maintained for farming because of the impact and how deeply subsided they were. You also see a lighter pink color, represents the salt ponds. So this area of the bay, this northern portion, really, similar to the South Bay, had both this mix of agricultural and salt pond production that occurred. One other point to this is just a snapshot of what happened in the North Baylands area. Across the Bay and Delta, we estimated a loss of 90 to 95% of the marshes that occurred historically prior to settlement. So, you just see this very sharp disconnect and shrinkage of marsh habitat in these areas. And with that, we lost that buffering effect. And it's now affecting communities throughout this area, particularly in the flood risk space. So what we'll be talking a lot about today is the efforts to restore these areas, to create that diversity and habitat, to create that ecological resilience, and to provide that adaptation to sea level rise. What's at risk? I'll ask you to move to the next slide. With sea level rise projections and no change in the land elevations that we see this entire area become inundated. So what we are looking at is there ways to start the restoration of marshes now, right? To give them the time to rebuild that elevation in the areas that are highly subsided and be able to reestablish and maintain those marshes over time as we begin to see increases in sea level rise and more intense storm surges. But we need time to do that. And so that, some of the infrastructure that's in place now allows us to utilize that time to reestablish and lower those risks. So there'll be more presentations at the end, but these slides were just intended to kind of provide the basis for that conversation and why, we're looking to use restoration as a tool to increase resiliency, both for the habitats in this area and the communities that live around it. So with that, I will turn it to Javier.
Good morning, Policy Committee. I'm Javier Mendeville with Caltrans Project Management. Next slide, please. So shifting gears to project delivery, this is our phase implementation slide. So as you can see, we label our projects into two classifications, near-term projects and not long-term projects, and we're working on both concurrently. So our near-term projects, we're planning on maintaining the highway, improving ride quality, travel times, reliability, and also time-sensitive ecological restoration. But at the same time, we're working on our long-term projects, the Elevated Causeway, so Novato Creek Bridge Replacement, the Flood Reduction Project are good examples of that. And the idea behind the near term is to get us prepared for that transition in 2050. We're expecting to complete the long term. Next slide, please. Our long-term program is based on the Planning and Environmental Linkages study results. So just to give a little bit of background on that, the study was completed back in 2022. It analyzed different alignments and different solutions for the highway. It ended up selecting the existing alignment as the preferred alternative with Elevated Causeway throughout most of the corridor as a solution. The Pell study provided an implementation plan, which is essentially that map in the background that divided the corridor in 8 segments, but it didn't really give us an order in which to develop those projects. So we underwent a prioritization process where we developed and applied criteria based off of criteria like flood vulnerability, environmental restoration opportunity, safety, et cetera. And our results ended up being what's listed on the screen there. So the top 4 are Section 2 is the top priority. That's essentially the flood reduction project between US 101 and Atherton Avenue in Marin County. Section 6 and 7, Sears Point to Mare Island, tied for second. And then 4th place is Section 4, just west of Sears Point to Mare Island. And then once again, the cost estimate that we came up with during the Pell was between $6 billion and $11 billion, so it's a tall order. It's definitely going to take a lot of time and collaboration to procure the funding for the program.
Thanks. Next slide. So the last phase of our program delivery is the fill removal of the existing State Route 37. It's a question that has been raised more frequently as of late as we start to really look at the raising up the causeway. And so this may occur at different times depending on when those different sections are developed, and then also the full transition of the land use. And so we will be needing to come up with a transportation land use plan that understands and recognizes both the responsibility of State Route 37 to provide access and protection both to private landowners as well as land managers. There's restoration, for example, that sits on the other side of State Route 37. So this is something that we're embarking on, and it's something that is not just with this direct team, but really needs to involve the restoration leadership and leads as we understand that there is both a difference over time as well as geographically in terms of what the connections should look like to the Baylands. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Next slide. So this is a topographical map from 1856. It shows State Route 37. State Route 37 wasn't built yet. That was back in the time when we had a ranch road and it was for wagons. People were accessing ranch land. But you can see this section east of Sonoma Creek occurs really far at the far edge of the bay. It's in an area where wave deposits built up a higher berm, just a natural way of the movement of the bay and the water flow. Next slide. Over time, after the Baylands were diked, we got greater and greater deposits in this section of State Route 37 and of the bay. And so you can see that growing stretch west and south of State Route 37 that formed a buffer, and that's just the natural deposition of sediments due to the waves. But if we were to look further to the west over by Tubbs Island, that area doesn't get the same wave action, doesn't get the same wave deposition, and was historically marsh channels all the way through. So we're going to have different solutions for these different areas, and it's going to take coordination with our restoration partners to really figure that out. Next slide. So I'm going to pass it over to Javier to speak to the specific roadway fill.
So this is a really rough, typical section that we created for what Sears Point to Mare Island looks like. What we did was we took existing survey information that we have and we created surface that tied the toe of slope from each side, and we colored it green. So that's the existing roadway prism. And then when you think about the project and widening an additional lane in each direction, along with 8-foot shoulders, it may seem like we're adding a ton of fill in order to do that, but because of the way we're engineering the slopes, the 101, and retaining walls in other areas, it ends up just being a sliver. So the yellow is what we're planning on adding for the widening of the project in terms of fill. Once again, it's just a rough guess that we did with the information that we have available, but I think the order of magnitude and difference between the new fill, the yellow fill, and the existing is relatively accurate, so about 15%. Next slide, please. And then going back to the long-term project, so this is our first long-term project for the corridor. We call it the Flood Reduction Project. It's in Marin County. Section number 2 from, if you think back to the Pell slide that I was presenting on earlier. Once again, the scope, purpose and need of the project is to elevate the causeway, or elevate the existing roadway to causeway that'll accommodate projected year 2130 sea level rise. And then we're planning on phasing it. So in blue is our first phase, which is a Novato Creek Bridge Replacement Project. It's fully funded. I'll have additional slides on that in the next presentation. And then phase 2 will be the rest of the section between US 101 and Atherton Avenue. So the cost of phase 1 is $270 million, which is fully funded, and phase 2 is $1.7 billion, which we've yet to fund, so we're still working on that. In terms of schedule, we finished clearing the entire section, 2.5-mile stretch back in January of last year. And then we're currently in the design phase for Novato Creek Bridge replacement, and our target is to finish by May of next year in order to comply with IIJ funding requirements. And then we'll start construction the following year. The schedule for the phase 2 is still TBD, as we're still sorting out funding opportunities and seeking those out.
Next slide. So we're also accelerating the restoration and the sea level rise adaptation that we're doing as part of the program through two main areas that we want to point out. And this was coordinated with our partners to identify the real critical steps that we can continue to optimize the ecological and roadway resilience. So at the Tole Creek Bridge replacement, which is part of the near-term Sears Point to Mare Island Improvement Project, which Kevin's going to speak to later on, we have been working to expand the footprint and specifically the depth of that work in order to remove the roadway fill that was put in over time as part of previous projects. Why is that important? That's a critical step for us to take. We learned through doing hydrodynamic modeling and through our coordination with the restoration leads so that we can really meet the need. Once we reconnect the baylins that have been subsided, we're going to have a much greater tidal prism and flow along Tole Creek. If that water hits compacted fill, it's going to move around it. We really need to remove it so that Tole Creek can really expand and fill in a broader channel. We're also moving forward with the initial funding of the long-term project at the 121-37 interchange. That's been identified as a high priority as part of our Pell prioritization. And SCTCA is going to be leading that step moving forward in 2026. We're targeting for the environmental analysis, beginning that analysis and preliminary engineering. So we're excited about these add-ons and expeditious actions. Next slide. And to tie this together now into the broader baylins restoration, I want to point out these areas. Normally you would see Jeremy Lowe. I'm a poor substitute for him, but I'm going to try to do it. You'll see the existing restoration areas that are both complete or in progress, shown in green. And then we have areas where we're really planning still what those restoration might look like and pulling that together, specifically focusing on the Sonoma Creek Baylins restoration, where we have a strategy in place, and then farther to the west, where we have the Novato Creek Baylin strategy that is in development. Together, those two strategies are informing our near and long-term actions along State Route 37 and as part of the program. Next slide. We also have some critical foundational documents. We have the Baylins Habitat Goals. We have the North Bay Regional Conservation Investment Strategy, which has identified what are the key actions that are needed and what are the priorities for the restoration that will allow us to reestablish this diverse and more expansive baylins, and will, really bring the necessary hydrological connections which you're seeing in blue. And I want to point out in this area, the hydrological connections are really made along the creeks. That's Sonoma Creek, it would be Napa Creek farther to the east, and then to the west, we have Tole, Petaluma, Novato. That's really critical for adding water, the substance, for the wetlands and the sediment. Then we're also going to be considering the critical wildlife connectivity. Next slide. With the near-term project, we've integrated two primary ecological enhancements that will bring up the near-term priority Baylands restorations. And we're going to speak a little bit more about Tole Creek in particular today. But I'll start off with the Strip Marsh East, which is off to the east. It's just west of where we are right now in Vallejo. It is a naturally formed marsh, but it's one that has degraded rapidly in recent years due to poor drainage. And so this project, a priority of the regulatory agencies and the resource agencies that we collaborate with, is now part of the near-term project, and it will be focused on correcting that drainage, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then the Tole Creek Baylands, which Julian's going to speak to in greater detail, is over by Tole Creek. It corresponds and overlaps and relates to the Tole Creek Bridge replacement, which is a critical precursor to the restoration project moving forward. Next slide. So for Strip Marsh East, this is a lot of stuff going on this slide. Let me just point out that that red rectangle to the right shows that Strip Marsh East is a natural buffer to wave energy, storm surge, and it provides that currently for State Route 37, but because it's rapidly degrading, that function and service is diminishing. And at the same time, its habitat value to the rare endemic special status species that occur here, like the rail and the salt marsh harvest mouse, where there's really great opportunity to bring back this rare high marsh habitat. So what's happening there? We're going to be correcting the drainage. We're going to be bringing back the elevation. When we dig out that channel and correct the drainage, the flows, we're going to be using that excess soils to build back the elevation of the high marsh so it can serve both of those critical habitat and roadway resilience roles. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it over in the next slide to Julian, who will be speaking remotely. Oh, sorry, you can move past the next slide. You can keep going, sorry. To the next slide. Thank you. And he. And while we're waiting for him to come on board, go ahead and speak up when you can, Julian. Julian Meisler is the Assistant Director of Stewardship at Sonoma Land Trust, and he is helping to lead this project, the Tole Creek Restoration Project. It's a project that is a collaboration with a number of other restoration nonprofits and leaders in the area. That includes Ducks Unlimited and includes the county and water entities to really figure out this important, time-critical landscape scale restoration.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jeanette, and good morning to all of you, and thank you for putting me on the agenda. I'm happy to share this project with you. Again, I'm Julian Meisler and with the Land Trust and Sonoma Land Trust, and we are the lead on the Tole Creek Baylands Restoration Project. And I just want to point out that this is a really kind of an unusual project in the ability and its impact that it can have, even though its size is not as large as some of the others. And that is because of its ability to connect the upland watershed down into the marshes and then all the way to the bay. And that's something that just isn't available throughout most of the San Francisco Bay Estuary, simply because either infrastructure or towns and cities or whatever it may be block that access. And as you know, the Tole Creek Bridge is doing that now, and that's the big integration here of ecological restoration and resilience and transportation infrastructure. Next slide. So Jeanette mentioned these two documents in the upper right-hand corner as being our kind of, everyone that works in the Bay on restoration knows these documents, and they're sort of guiding umbrella documents. What do we do? Where do we do it? What's the problem? How do we do it? How do we account for climate change? But they are just that. They're very broad. They're guidance. And so the Land Trust took a look closely. The Land Trust and actually many partners, including the ones listed here at the bottom, took a look at two areas, the Sonoma Creek Baylands that we're talking about today, the Petaluma River Baylands, and we created strategies for both with the recognition that if we've lost, well, not if, because we've lost 80 to 90% of our tidal wetlands, you don't lose that much habitat without losing function, and you don't gain it back with little projects here and there. Although they have great value, we need to be looking at landscape scale, big connected areas that can return some of these functions that these ecosystems serve, that Aaron talked about and that Jeanette talked about. Next slide. And so in that Sonoma Creek Baylands strategy that we worked on with lots of others, one of the main products is actually the photo, the drawing on the left, the cartoon, the concept, and it's essentially the preferred alternative for the Sonoma Creek Baylands. If we had access to all the baylands there, how would we tie it all together? How would we restore it and account for the infrastructure, account for those ecosystem services, and connecting all the way up into the watersheds down to the bay? And again, that's not a plan, that is a concept. But that plan, that concept is not sitting idly like so many sometimes do. It's an action plan. We are taking action based on that concept. And we've got on the right there, you see the Sonoma Creek Baylands Restoration. That's an enormous project that we're not talking about today, but that's a partnership between the Land Trust and Ducks Unlimited and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Sonoma Water and others to restore 9,200 acres. So it's a very, very large project, one of the biggest out there for sure, and will have lots of impact. And on the left of the screen, the smaller Tole Creek Baylands Restoration, smaller in size, but I would argue equal in impact or possibly larger in impact in some regards, for the reasons I stated in that first slide, and that is that connectivity, giving it the ability to go all the way up to the Tole Lake, which is part of the regional park, through the creek, down into the Baylands, and out to the bay. Next slide. So the purpose of this project is to restore at least 280 acres of tidal and freshwater wetlands and the transition zone, and that's that zone that marks the boundary, the fuzzy boundary between wetland and upland, and the alluvial fan, and that's just where the creek is coming out and depositing sediment and nutrients. That's an area of really high biodiversity, very important to restore and very hard to restore because so many of them are developed. Another purpose is to reconnect Tole Creek to San Pablo Bay. That's a huge part of it, as we've said, and to open that corridor for wildlife to move in both directions, right? From the watershed to the bay, from the bay to the watershed. That's fish and wildlife, plants, everything. And then also natural processes. So I'm talking about physical processes, having the water moving back and forth, that mixing of fresh and salt water, nutrient delivery, sediment delivery. And then, of course, integrating the transportation infrastructure into the restoration. Next slide. Aerial photo here that kind of makes it a little easier to understand maybe. So you see some of the major infrastructure, SR 37, the Tole Creek Bridge, the Smart Railroad, Highway 121. Those are the pieces that we need to work with as that creek comes out of the hills, flowing down into that alluvial fan and transition zone. So that's where the creek would naturally spread out and sort of grade into those tidal wetlands. They're labeled here as muted because they are. That means the tides don't get to them because that cork that is the Tole Creek Bridge doesn't allow it. And so the project that Caltrans is doing to sort of uncork that and allow that and to dig that, to excavate that road fill, that creates the conditions in which we can then dredge a channel northward and dredge a channel southward to make that full connection, that full tidal connection under Highway 37. Next slide. And of course, just to show you, that photo on the right gives you a good indication. That's what it looks like. That's a stagnant system. Those soils are full of acid sulfate. It's not a great condition for wildlife. And it's simply because we don't have the mixing. We're not able to have that tidal water moving back and forth. And so the project of expanding, lengthening that bridge from 65 to 375 feet is actually incredible. And that is, uncorking the system. That's what's going to allow it. Next slide. So the Land Trust, so the leadership team on this project is the Land Trust leading it. Our primary consultant is Environmental Science Associates, who's done the hydrodynamic modeling that Jeanette referred to, and a lot of work in this area, very familiar. The San Francisco Estuary Institute, also very familiar and on our team, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is the landowner. We will have, like we do on most of our big projects, a technical working group that's composed of people that know a lot, that have done this work, and whose ideas will contribute to the success of the project. And the Estuary Institute will coordinate and lead that group. And then, of course, we're a big part of it is making sure the community and partners and interested parties are informed. So that's our surrounding landowners, transportation agencies, tribes, regulatory agencies, and more than that. Go ahead, next one. Oh, that didn't come out well. Sorry, you can't really read this, but the big components of this project are community outreach, and that's beginning now. We're doing it this second, and that will extend all through the project. This fall, we have actually just kicked this off, this project. This fall, we're going to be collecting baseline conditions throughout the whole project area. That means biological information, cultural resource information, how does water move, what are the depths, everything we need to know to be able to come up with a number of alternatives for what this restoration will look like. And that's the third step. Then we, with our technical advisory committee, we choose that preferred alternative. And under this grant, we're taking it to the 30% design, taking it through CEQA, and also setting the stage for all the permits, sort of finessing the way toward all the permits that we're going to need. And that work goes all the way through the summer of 27. Now, I would say that 6 months prior to that, at least, we will be able to secure the funding to do the final design, to take it from 30% to 100%, secure those permits. That will take an additional year. And during that period, we'll be securing the funding to build the project, which I anticipate occurring in summer of 28. Next slide. And that's the final slide. Thank you.
So that is our refresher and our update. I hope we've made the case and clarified while we're not building all of the causeway at one time because we can't, we are making the critical steps that are needed to provide resilience both for communities and for habitats. So with that, turn it back to you, Chair.
Great. Thank you so much for all the presenters. I'll see if there are any questions from the Policy Committee. We'll start with Supervisor Manfrey.
Good morning, Mr. Meisler.
Good morning.
Good morning. I know that you've been working on this project for close to 20 years, maybe a little more. Yeah.
Not quite that long, but yeah. Feels like it sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's, it's been a while. So just for the benefit of people who will communicate and advocate for this project, I'm wondering what wildlife are present in Tole today, and what specifically do you think this project would most benefit and might be exciting to people who are interested in doing good things for both transportation, infrastructure, and for the environment?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're some of that we don't know the answers to, Amber. I mean, certainly we know there's going to be the endangered species like the salt marsh harvest mouse, almost certainly present. California Ridgway's rail, black rail. What kind of wildlife are moving from Tole Regional Park? We know we have, this is interesting. I mean, we know we have lion. We know we have bobcat. Down in the Tole Creek Baylands, very interestingly, and I don't know of anywhere else that this is the case, we have beaver down there, which actually we're really going to have to, they're going to be a big player at the table, sort of controlling how this project works because they are these engineers that are always going to be at work down there. That alluvial fan, so that area where the sediments are coming down and the mixing is occurring, is prime possible habitat for a number of rare plants. So plants are also a piece of this. Fish able to make it up and down Tole Creek, possibly, it's not out of the question that we would see steelhead coming up that creek. We had Chinook salmon at the Sears Point Restoration Project. So a lot. I mean, and we're in the process of getting some cameras out there and doing the biosurveys, but based on what we know that exists in the surroundings, we can sort of anticipate what we're going to improve it for. Thanks for asking.
Councilmember Eklund.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to ask questions. Great presentation. Really has opened up my eyes to the incredible opportunity that we have in this area. I'm just going to go through the pages where I wrote the comments. It's hard for me to do this with only one hand, but I'm trying to do my best. You have these documents that are on the second slide. It would be great if you could send us a link to those.
Yes.
I'd like to really, obviously with my 35 years at the EPA, I really would like to have a better understanding of some of the environmental aspects that we want. And I'm assuming that the ultimate plan is to elevate that whole Highway 37, correct? Or am I wrong? It is to elevate it.
That's correct. My understanding.
That's great. And I have some more detailed questions there later. So the details on the preferred alternative, which document is that in?
Oh, we don't,
It's on the third slide.
That's in the Sonoma Creek Baylands strategy. So I will send a link to that. It's on our website.
Oh, okay, great. This, because I'd like to learn a little bit more about the preferred alternative.
Sure.
And especially as it relates to marshland restoration, something that I actually led the San Francisco Bay program when I was with EPA back, well, you don't need to know the years, but so it's been a long time. Let's see, on the smart rail, is that going to be elevated?
I don't have the answer to that. But what I do know is that we will work with SMART, and we do work with SMART on, Eddie's on, and I'll let him answer that question.
And if it's not elevated, then I have an issue. Okay.
Yeah, let me just real quick say that our intention is to work with SMART to look at the existing culverts that affect this particular project, and look at ideas and options for enlarging or maybe increasing the number. Of course, Beaver are going to have a hand in that, and maybe be a challenge. But that's our goal, is recognizing that it's probably not going up. It's probably going to just increase drainage through culverts. But go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, just to add to that a little bit, we are continuing to work through that process. We'll have some information to share in the coming months. But that will be one of the considerations of the elevated rail.
Well, in the future, it would be helpful if the slide would say proposed SMART trail, because if we don't know if it's elevated or not, that's a key issue, I think, for a lot of the decision makers, as to how that's going to affect the overall restoration of that whole area. I don't understand why we build something new that wouldn't allow for that complete restoration, but maybe it's because I don't know all the details and I need to start reading more of the documents that are online. Let's see, the other question I had was, in terms of the whole restoration, Highway 37, that's going to be elevated. We don't know if the SMART rail is. This Highway 121, is there any aspect of that highway that's going to be elevated in order for it to get through that alluvia fan and transition zone?
So we're not counting. I'll speak from my position, not a transportation planner, but we're not counting on that. There is an underpass, and that's what we're working with.
Is it more ideal to have part of it elevated in order to have really good environmental improvements here?
I mean, that would make a full connection, is the answer, absolutely.
And that's the answer that I wanted. So the Highway 37 may not be planned, but it may be the best direction for part of it to be elevated so that we can have that restoration complete. So sorry about that. I don't know how to operate my own phone.
Pat, do you have some other questions, or do you want to
That's it.
come back? Okay.
That was the last comment. I hope MTC or whoever's in charge of Highway 121 will get back to me soon.
All right. Any other questions from the policy committee on this? We'll see. Are there any, I know there's some hands up, but I can't tell if that's from members of the public or the policy committee before we go to public comment. That's public comment?
Public comment.
All right. Why don't we start, if there's any, well, thank you all for the presentations. Let's see if there's any public comment here in the room on this item. Not seeing any, so we'll go to the hand up remotely.
Kate Powers, please unmute.
Could you hear me now? I'm sorry.
We can.
Okay, thank you. I had two questions. One was on the roadway fill slide, and I do want to thank Jeanette and all of the others that presented for making this presentation. On the roadway fill slide, Javier, I wasn't clear if you said that was a typical section or if that was to scale. I know that in the environmental impact report for this area, it said that there would be 9 acres of wetlands that would be removed with the expansion. And I was wondering where the sheet piles would be, what exactly the quantity of fill would be in acres, if it's 9 acres, and whether or not there will be asphalt added. I thought at one point, at one meeting, it was mentioned that there'll be 4 inches of asphalt laid on top of the current Highway 37 between 121 and Mare Island. I think it would be helpful to know those details in the future. And then my other question is just for Julian about the Tole Creek Bridge. Are there any, as far as Sonoma Land Trust, are there any components of this State Route 37 Tole Creek Bridge area, either of the bridge, the Caltrans project, or of the Sonoma Land Trust project, that are going to then be transferable to as long-term sea level rise adaptation projects, either through the data that you're collecting or the hydrology, that the excavating of soil around where the bridge will be laid, or any of the bridge components, just looking at how that bridge is going to be something that will add to the ultimate project. And the last question is, does Tole Creek currently flow into Sonoma Creek when there are heavy rainstorms? Thank you for the opportunity to ask questions.
Is there any other public comment?
There are no additional hands raised at this time.
All right, well, maybe if the presenters want to maybe quickly answer the question about the fill, and then Julian, that question.
Yeah, hi Kate, this is Javier. So when we developed that figure, yes, it's to scale and it's representative of what most of the stretch looks like. Obviously, there's going to be differences throughout. But yeah, your point about the retaining walls, some sections do have retaining walls. In the figure we showed the 101 slope, because that's the most impactful, so we didn't want to mislead with it. But yeah, you're right. There's a significant portion of the highway that's going to have retaining wall, and that won't have that 101 fill slope. And then to your point about the acreage, when we went through this exercise, we focused on the volume of the fill. We could take a look at the acreage. We did run some rough numbers on what in terms of cubic yards, but we didn't really look at the area for it. So the following presentation will have those numbers. Let's just point to Mare Island presentation. I think it's 2 presentations from now. And yeah, I think that's what I got for now.
Eric, is it possible for him to send us a document that shows where all the locations are for the retaining walls? All of them?
Yeah, we could certainly ask that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We're still finalizing it. Right now, we do have an approach, but by the next meeting, I think we'll have that finalized.
Great. Jeanette, did you?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I know that we're running long, and so if we need to drop the Tole Creek presentation, that's okay. I know that from my perspective, we can come back with some more information conceptually, but as Javier said, we do have in that presentation some more details on fill. So I think the last question, was it for Julian? Can't remember.
Yeah, there are a couple questions there. One was about whether Tole connects to Sonoma Creek, and I think the answer to that is that most of the time, no. Probably in very high flows, storm flows and high tides, those connections begin to blur and they move backwards, and I'm sure there is some connection, but that's part of our modeling that is gonna look at that. And then you also asked, I can't answer about the bridge, but you're asking about sea level rise and resilience in the future, I think. And one of the great things about this project is that because it incorporates that adjacent transition and upland space, that is the ultimate resilience piece to it, is it gives marshes room to move. And that's one of the things we're looking for around the bay. For instance, so what I mean by that is as sea level rises, marshes either move or they drown. And we're going to have room to move there. So that's a great piece of it.
Great. Thank you. And I did see, I think, one more hand go up, so we'll take one last public comment.
Tom Conlon, please unmute.
Thank you. I'll keep this short. Tom Conlon here in Sonoma Valley. Kate's question and the subsequent conversation raised for me a further question about to Javier and that team about the effects of the reduced amount of fill compared to what we maybe conceptually had in the past by hardening and making that roadway prism more vertical. And my question is, does the hydraulic modeling suggest that by making that geometry more vertical, does that increase what is the effect of that on at times of surge? Will the roadway have to be strengthened to be more like a retaining wall and less like a berm gradual structure as it is now? And what effect would that have on, large expanses like the East Marsh, which will be substantially torn up and replaced by such a hardening? I'm trying to understand that, and I don't think the committee has enough information. So when you do come back next time, it would be helpful to sort of explain that a little bit more. That's just my comment. Thank you for this information.
Great, thank you. And it sounds like maybe at our next meeting, there'll be a little more detail on this, and we will take all of that comment into consideration. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that? Okay, great. Thank you so much for the public comment on that. We'll go ahead and move on to item 3.3, which is the long-term Novato Creek Bridge replacement. And Javier is presenting this as well.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll go through the first slides quickly since it's all sort of repeated information. Once again, Novato Creek Bridge replacement is our first long-term project. It was cleared as a larger project, segment number 2, which is US 101 to Atherton Avenue, but we're phasing it due to funding. So this presentation will focus on the phase 1, which is Novato Creek Bridge replacement. Next slide, please. So this is our funding. We have multiple funding sources. Our biggest one there is IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, $155 million. We also have funds from the general fund, thanks to Senator McGuire, $15 million. And then $75 million through our state shop fund and $25 million through regional measure 3 funds, thanks to TAM. So the total project cost is $270 million and we're fully funded. Next slide, please. Here's our schedule, no changes to this one. I mentioned in the previous presentation that we completed the environmental phase for the entire limits 2.5 mile stretch back in January of last year. We're targeting the complete design by next May 2026, in order to comply with IIJA funding requirements. And then construction will start the following year in 2027. Next slide, please. So at the last meeting, I was asked to prepare a list of anticipated project permits. So here it is. Our first one on the list is the 404 for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Next is 401 for the Water Board. And then we have a couple from CDFW, 1600, and the ITP. And then we have the biological opinion for both NIMS and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. Next slide, please. And then here I have a video queued up. Chair, at the last meeting, you requested a presentation on how we're planning on staging the project and managing traffic. We are doing it in a unique manner compared to other projects, so we decided to put together a video to sort of show how we're planning on doing it. And the reason we're doing it this way is to save time on construction duration. We're saving multiple seasons by doing it this way. So without further ado, I'll let the video play.
State Route 37 flood reduction project will address flooding caused by storms and high tide events and build resiliency addressing future sea level rise. The project will replace the Novato Creek Bridge, raising the bridge elevation to 26 feet to accommodate projected 2130 sea levels. To minimize traffic delays, maintain traffic flow, and limit the construction duration, Caltrans will construct the project in multiple stages over a 3-year period. Stage 1 of construction will begin by widening the existing eastbound bridge to include a third lane for travel. Crews will construct an access road from the Hannah Ranch Road westbound off-ramp to the western edge of Novato Creek, allowing Caltrans field maintenance and the Novato Sanitation District to access the area. Portions of the existing median will be paved at both the west and eastern ends of the project to allow traffic to cross over the median and into a barrier-separated lane safely. Westbound traffic will shift south to the eastbound lanes and the newly widened bridge. A movable barrier system, similar to the one on the Golden Gate Bridge, will manage traffic flow, maintaining 2 travel lanes in the peak travel direction and 1 travel lane in the non-peak direction. With westbound traffic shifted to the south, the original westbound bridge will be closed and demolished at the start of Stage 2. During this portion of the work, the off-ramp to Hannah Ranch Road and the on-ramp from Marsh Drive will close. However, the on-ramp from Hannah Ranch Road and the off-ramp to Marsh Drive will remain open, ensuring continued access. Crews will begin constructing the new Novato Creek Bridge by building new piers, setting girders, and pouring the bridge deck. Sheet pile walls forming the transition structures will be erected and backfilled with lightweight materials to support traffic. Crews will build a second access road east of the bridge, from near the Novato Sanitation District access road to the eastern edge of Novato Creek. The off-ramp to Hannah Ranch Road will reopen after this portion of the stage. Once the new bridge is completed in December 2029, work will continue on the embankment areas, including removal of the existing roadway and fill placement. Traffic will shift north using the new westbound lanes and shoulder. The movable barrier will also move north to ensure that 2 lanes remain open in the peak travel direction and 1 lane in the non-peak direction. As construction nears completion, the new Novato Creek Bridge will open to all lanes of traffic, and crews will remove the widened eastbound bridge. Lane closures will continue for final roadway work, including lane striping and conforming the new roadway to the existing one. The on-ramp from Marsh Drive will reopen following project completion in December 2030. This project will enhance the resiliency and reliability of State Route 37. We appreciate your patience as we work through each stage. Together, let's build a resilient 37.
So we put the video together fairly quickly between now and the previous meeting. We're planning on updating it as we move through design. There's a lot of information on it. It might take a couple of views to fully grasp what's going on, but yeah, we're still planning on making updates to it.
We'll see if there's any questions. I just want to start by saying, thank you for putting that together. I think this is exciting that this is the first ultimate component of the project. So we're trying to figure out what that staging is going to look like. It's an application in other portions of the corridor as we start to build the ultimate above or in place of, depending on alignment of the existing route, how we do that in a way that is less disruptive.
Microphone.
So I think it's very helpful even at this stage to be able to express that appreciation for putting it together. Any questions?
Okay, just to clarify then, the ultimate or the phase 2 is basically elevating 37 the rest of the way versus just kind of having the existing road?
For this project, yes. The flood reduction project, phase 2, will be the rest of between US 101 and Atherton Avenue. Very similar to what you saw in the video.
Okay, thank you.
I guess that was part of my question. So you're not planning to elevate the Novato Creek Bridge, correct?
We are planning to elevate the Novato Creek Bridge.
You are?
Yes.
So as part of this project?
Correct, to the ultimate elevation.
That's going to be done in 2025 or 2026 or?
We're starting construction in 2027.
2027. How long is the construction for?
The bridge will open in 2029, or that's when we're expecting it to open, but there'll still be some work like removal of the old bridge.
So how much is it going to be elevated?
The deck elevation is going to be 26 feet high.
26 feet high, okay. And do we, the documents that you're talking about, are they also on the website as well?
Yes.
Could you send us a link to what they are, so I have a better understanding about what the proposed project is?
Okay.
And its timeline? Because it looks like the list of anticipated project permits, have we applied for any of these permits from any of these agencies?
We're working on permit applications right now. I think the BOs or the BAs have been sent out for the biological opinions. The rest of the permits applications should be submitted by the next policy committee meeting. So I'll confirm that there.
The preliminary feedback that you've gotten from the regulatory agencies, have they indicated whether or not they're going to be having any concerns about some of the proposed aspects of the project?
They haven't indicated concerns just yet. They did participate in the planning environmental linkages study process, so we do have general buy-in. So we're not expecting a lot of pushback, but I can keep the group informed as we go through that process.
And that would be helpful. On your other slide where you talk about the draft environmental document, I'm assuming the complete environmental phase means that's when the final environmental document's going to be done?
It was done, so it was done in January 2024.
In 2024, so that was the final then? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you. So that's where I can find out more information. And congratulations on getting it fully funded.
Thank you.
That was really quite an achievement. I want to thank everybody in the room that was part of it. Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? I realized my microphone was off, so just thank you again. I was just saying that having that visualization in the construction staging for the ultimate when it's built in the same alignment as the current and how that's going to be done, I think is applicable for other portions of the corridor as well. That'll be helpful for future planning. We'll quickly go. Is there any public comment here in the room? Any online?
There are no hands raised at this time, Chair.
All right. Thank you, Javier. We'll go ahead and move on to item 3.4, which is the Sears Point to Mare Island Improvement Project. Kevin Chen and maybe Javier as well. Oh.
We're going to skip that, and then we'll put it off to a future policy committee where we can go into greater detail and address some of the questions that were asked of us.
Okay.
But we would like to give one time-sensitive update, which Daryl will share with us.
Well, actually, we have good news. As you know,
Can you speak into the microphone?
yeah, Assemblymember Lori Wilson has been carrying the protected species legislation.
I still can't hear him.
That's all the mic we got. I'll try. I'm going to speak up. Can you hear me now? Okay. Today, the protected species legislation carried by Lori Wilson, AB 697, cleared the third reading on a 36-0 vote with 4 abstentions. It's not under the governor's desk. So that's great news. I want to thank a number of people in this room. First of all, Lori Wilson's office for sponsoring the bill. Chris Cabalden's been floor jockeying it in the Senate. Senator McGuire has been supporting it all from the get-go. I also want to commend 2 commissioners, Mitch Mashburn and Stephanie Moulton-Peters, their early testimony to get this thing going. I also want to acknowledge the staff from MTC, the CTAs. It's been a team effort, so congratulations to the governor's desk. We'll need support letters in the next step, so thanks.
All right. Any other, maybe we'll just quickly see if there's any policy member comments, questions on this, or before it comes back at our next meeting? Not seeing any. All right. We will go ahead and wrap up with that. That concludes, I think, all of our discussion and information items for today. We do have item number 4, which is public comment for items not on the agenda. I'll quickly look around if there are any, or if any hands go up. Not seeing any. On the agenda, you can see the future meeting schedule as well as the future topics. Just looking around if there's any questions or comments about that. Don't see any from our policy committee. I'll just remind you, our next meeting is going to be November 6th. That will be in Sonoma. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, staff. Thank you, policy committee members, the expanded partnership, members of the public for joining us today. We'll see you all again on November 6th. Meeting is adjourned.